Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. And thanks for joining us. We have a lot of people on, so that's great. I'm happy to have UMass Amherst on today, the team of UMass Amherst. So it's great. We have two counselors who work in the undergraduate admissions office and two New Jersey students who will talk more about the student life and a little bit more about, coming from New Jersey to Massachusetts, Red Sox versus Yankees, all that. So I'm going to let Carolyn take over my hosting roles and have her speak a little bit about UMass and then monitor the Q&A that we hope you all have some great questions. So thank you, Carolyn.
Thanks, Jenna. My noise is like echoing. Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn, and I'm one of the counselors, the admission counselors from UMass. I'm also a proud alum, and actually, I work a lot with New Yorkers in my job here, and so there's a few of you out there, so I'm excited about that. I'm gonna, of course, like Jenna said, I'm gonna be in the background. Send me any questions throughout the whole thing, and we'll make sure that we get them answered. And I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Rachel, who is also Jersey and is amazing and is going to actually give you the fun facts about UMass.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. So my name is Rachel Polton. I'm also one of the admissions counselors here, one of the assistant directors of admission. I'm also a proud alum of this university. I graduated in 2012 with a bachelor's degree in psychology and a minor in education. And so what I'll be doing is sort of giving a little kind of mini info session here, but we want it to be a little bit more informal and more Q&A. So we do have just a couple slides we want to go through just to kind of give you an overview. But then the rest of the session will be more, the students will kind of take over a little bit. They'll be answering more questions. I always say that even though I graduated from here, it wasn't that long ago, but it was long enough where I'm now outdated. So you definitely want to hear from current students rather than me. But we'll go a little over about UMass. We'll also do a little bit about the application process, and then a little bit about majors, and then we'll kind of turn it back to you to answer any of your questions. Like I said, the students will hop in at certain times and answer questions as well. And then Carolyn mentioned this, but my territory for the admissions office is New Jersey. So I know we have a bunch of New Jersey students out there. So I'm really happy to be speaking with you even virtually. I would probably be at your schools this fall, but obviously can't do that. So hopefully we'll get a lot of your questions answered today. I also just want to throw out there that we do have other sessions run by our admissions office throughout the week. We do have our own virtual student guided sessions, which are more also more informal and more about from the students. And then we have a lot more formal info sessions, which go in even deeper than the information we're going to go here. So if you either don't get your question answered here today, or you want more information about the admissions process, we have those sessions set up through our office. So you can sign up online for those. Okay, so I'm gonna have the students introduce themselves. They're gonna, just give kind of a broad overview, where they're from, what their major is, what they're involved in on campus. And then, like I said, we'll be bringing them back a lot more throughout the session. So Neve, go ahead. Good start.
Hi, everyone. My name is Neve. I am a junior here at UMass. I'm majoring in communication disorders, and I'm minoring in psychology. I'm from Red Bank, New Jersey, so I'm an out-of-state student. So excited to talk to all of you today. I'm involved in a couple of things on campus. So I'm a tour guide on campus. I'm also involved in the University Programming Council. So we plan events such as the spring and fall concerts. I'm also involved in the Student Alumni Association, keeping current students connected to alumni through networking nights and things like that. So super excited to talk to you all tonight.
Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laura. I'm going to be a sophomore this fall. I'm majoring in marketing, and I'm from Wayne, New Jersey, so also from out of state. And I'm also a tour guide and part of Women in Business, Habitat for Humanities, and the Marketing Club.
Awesome. Thank you both. And like I said, we'll be bringing them back a lot throughout the session. Also, I didn't mention this, but so if you do have questions, live questions, Carolyn kind of mentioned this, but if you do have live questions, you'll definitely want to shoot those over to Carolyn. She'll be monitoring the chat. It's really hard for me to present and do the chat at the same time. So just if you message me, I probably won't be able to see it. So definitely shoot her any of your questions. And like I said, we'll have time at the end for the live Q&A. So I just didn't want you to think I was ignoring you if you message me in the chat. So, okay. So the first, I just want to give you kind of a broad overview here about UMass. So there's a lot that we, like I said, we won't go into today, but this will hopefully give you kind of a general idea. So the University of Massachusetts is the flagship campus for the state of Massachusetts. There are actually 5 UMasses total. One of them is a med school, and we are the flagship campus. So I always say we're kind of like the main one. We are top 24 for top public universities in the country. We have a little over 24,000 undergraduate students, and then a little over 7,000, a little over 24,000 undergraduate students and a little over 7,000 graduate students. So a little over 31,000 total students. And we're located in Amherst, Massachusetts, which is about an hour and a half from Boston. It's about 3 hours from New York City, about 3 hours from like northern New Jersey. I can usually get down there in about 3 to 3.5 hours, but I usually drive fairly quickly. So I usually don't like to use myself as an example. But no traffic, you can definitely do it in about 3 hours to New York City, but that's obviously rare. So Amherst is definitely a college town. We're always voted one of the top college towns in the country. And we're also part of a 5-college consortium. So what that means is that we are associated with 4 other schools in our area. And those are Smith College, Mount Holyoke College, Hampshire College, and Amherst College. So basically how the system works is you can take classes at those other 4 schools at no extra cost. It's already included in your tuition. So basically you're paying for 1 school, but you have access to 5, which is really cool. It's a really unique system. I've only heard of one other ones like this in the country, out on the West Coast. And so basically, not only do you have an opportunity to take classes at these other 4 schools, but you also have access to all of their resources. So their academics, their libraries, their sports, their clubs, their events, everything. It's this little shared system that we have. And I bring it up now because it really adds to the whole college community feel of the area. One of my favorite things about Amherst and the Pioneer Valley is that you are surrounded by college students. There are college students all the time. So I live in the town of Amherst full time, and when the students leave for the summer, you really feel that. You really feel the energy leave the area, and it's because of this 5-college consortium. So actually this week, all the students came back. Not all the students, sorry. A chunk of the students came back for some in-person classes. Most of them are virtual. But you could feel that even with that small chunk of students that came back, you could feel the energy back into this town. So it's really interesting, this whole, like I said, this shared system that we have. And like I said, it's really unique. So Amherst, at UMass Amherst, we have over 100 majors through 10 schools and colleges. And we're going to talk more about majors later on and more about the application process for certain majors. We have over 300 registered student organizations. We are Division I for athletics. And then my favorite rank, and pretty much one of the only ranks you're going to hear me say, I'm not huge on rankings, but this one's important, is that we are #1 for best campus dining for the 5th year in a row. Actually, that 5th year just came out about a week ago. So if you do get a chance to come onto campus at some point, obviously not right now, but at some point, we highly recommend eating at one of our dining halls. It is literally the best. So it's my favorite rank. So I'm actually going to bring the students back. I'm going to ask each of them what their favorite thing about kind of the surrounding area, so the Pioneer Valley, so what their favorite thing to do outside of campus. So Neve, go ahead, you can go first.
Yeah, definitely. So we are located in such an incredible area. That's like one of the best things about going to UMass is that you're never going to be bored because, you know, there's a movie theater right down the road. There's Chipotle, there's Trader Joe's, there's so much things to do. But my personal favorite thing to do off campus is go to Flavors of Cook Farm, which is an ice cream place. It's so delicious. They have cows right in the back of the store, and that you can go and see the cows. They also have chickens that go up to you while you're eating ice cream. But there's just really so many things. There's hiking. I love going hiking and like mountain biking and things like that. There's really so much to do. But I think that getting ice cream is definitely at the top of my list.
Thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
I've actually never heard of that ice cream place, so I have to go check that out when I'm back in Amherst because that sounds really good. But I also think one of my favorite things to do is to go into Amherst. It's literally about a 15-minute walk from one of the dorms. The bus systems that we have, the PBTA, they come on campus every 15 minutes. So I usually will take the bus with my friends. We'll get a bite to eat. Even though we do have #1 campus dining, I can always go for food in Amherst. So one of my favorite places that my family will come when they come to visit me is Pita Pockets in Amherst. It's this really amazing Mediterranean food. They actually know my parents and my grandparents because we go so much. And it's just a really great atmosphere. And anywhere really you go in Amherst is just amazing. There's great donuts, great pasta, just everything's really fun. And I really enjoy just going there on a Saturday to a coffee shop and kind of just studying there for a few hours, kind of getting a break and going into the outside world. So kind of just having that at town just a few minutes away is really amazing and one of my favorite things to do.
Awesome. Thank you both. Yeah, Laura, you definitely need to check out Flavors. It's amazing ice cream. The Cookie Monster flavor is my favorite. So as you can tell, food is a really big part of this area. And I don't know if it's just because dinner time and we're talking about food, but it really is, it's a big part of this area. So you're probably getting that vibe from us. Okay, so now we're just going to switch gears here. I do want to just briefly go over the application process since the majority of you are all, going into the college process, either, juniors or sophomores in high school. So this is kind of a little bit of the boring stuff. I usually say, as a disclaimer, but it is important. So just bear with me here and then we'll go back to the students. So in terms of our timeline, we do have 2 different deadlines that you need to keep in mind. We do have early action, which is November 5th, and then regular decision, which is January 15th. The main thing you need to keep in mind with early action is that it's an earlier process, which means that if you're planning on waiting for either updated transcripts or if you're planning on taking the SAT or ACT again, like later on in the year, you'll want to wait for regular decision. But otherwise, if you're all set to go, if you're happy with your application, you're happy with your transcript so far, early action might be the process for you. Because the main, when we just had this change about a year ago actually, is that we're actually no longer deferring students from early action to regular decision. So what that means is that if you apply early action, you can be admitted, you can be denied, or you can be waitlisted. So if you had like older siblings in the past or friends who have been deferred, we no longer have that process. So that is kind of a big change for us. Like I said, it's about a year. We've been doing that now for about a year. So that's just one more kind of thing to keep in mind if you're deciding between the 2 different deadlines that we have. If you do apply early action, you should hear back from us sometime in January. I used to say the 1st of the year, but it doesn't really happen that much anymore. Sometimes we get them out by the 1st of the year, we start sending out, but really throughout the whole month of January, you can expect to hear back from us. And then if you apply regular decision, you should hear back from us sometime in March. That's when we usually send out those decisions. So you should hear back from us then. And then, depending on when you apply or depending on your family situation, you do submit the FAFSA either October 1st or March 1st. If you're doing prior year or prior year, kind of depends on that. And then decisions are released, like I said, I mentioned that those deadlines as well, and then as well as the wait list. And then if you've been admitted, that will trigger your financial aid. So you actually can't see your financial aid until you've been admitted. So that will trigger that. And then whether you apply early action or regular decision, you just need to let us know whether or not you'd like to attend UMass by May 1st. That's the national deadline for all the schools in the country, not just us. So it's a pretty simple process, going from start to finish. I know it doesn't feel like that right now, but it's pretty self-explanatory. And all of this is on our website too. So you don't need to, worry about remembering or anything like that. All right, so now in terms of the actual application requirements, this slide just goes over a little bit of what we're looking for an application or an applicant. It's also pretty straightforward. I usually say that ours is not the worst one I've seen. I know some of them are really tedious, but I think ours is pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. So we are only on the Common Application. That's the only way to apply to us is through the Common App. So that really just takes you through all the different pages, all the different sections that you need, including the essay. We have supplemental questions, the extracurricular activities. That's all part of the Common App. And the Common App is open, so you can start filling it out right now if you'd like. Commonapp.org is the website. And we do have a holistic review process. So we're really not looking for any one particular student. We have 2 students as an example here today, and you can see they're very different students. They're both from New Jersey, and we did that because we knew a lot of you were out of state, so we wanted out of state students. But in terms of what they're involved in and their majors, they're both involved in a lot of different things and have a lot of different interests and a lot of different passions. So we're really not looking for, one particular student here at UMass. Our students are, we have a very diverse campus in terms of, where students are from and what they're involved in and their passions and their interests and their majors. So that's kind of what we're looking for in an applicant. We do require your official transcripts. Those need to be from your school counseling office. And then on the right column, you'll see there are some middle 50 percentile ranges there. So just to kind of give you an idea of where students fell from this most recent class. And that's, we want to put that in there as well because we do not have minimum requirements for the general review process for our school. So those ranges will hopefully just kind of give you an idea of where students fell. Now that doesn't mean you have to fall in that range. There are students that were below that and there were students that were above those ranges. Those are just the middle 50 percentile of the accepted class from last year. And then I just want to point out that we are SAT, ACT optional now. So that actually just changed this year, this summer actually. We just made that decision to go test optional. So basically there's a lot more information on our website, but we basically have a formula that will calculate out if you do submit scores, we will use those only if they help you. Okay, so if your scores end up looking lower, what we had projected you at, we will not use those scores. Okay, so they truly will only help you. So you can submit them regardless. If you think however you think you did on the SAT or the ACT, you can submit your scores, and we'll use them only if they'll help your application. But if you did not get a chance to take the SAT or the ACT, don't worry about it. Like I said, we are test optional this year, but we do still have the ranges in there just to kind of give you an idea. And then I think the only thing I left out there was that we do require one letter of recommendation, which just needs to be from an academic source. So basically anybody in your school system. And then we'll accept up to 3. So the other 2 can be from whomever you like, coach if you play a sport, or boss if you have a job, or another teacher, that's okay. But we just need one from some sort of academic source. So a teacher, a counselor, somebody like that. And that's kind of just a broad overview of our application process. Like I said, all of this is online as well, so you can check that out. But it's pretty straightforward. The Common App makes it pretty simple nowadays, where you can just go through and follow the different pages and fill out each section. So if you check that out, like I said, should be pretty straightforward. So one question we get a lot about, so we just kind of wanted to include this in this session, is major and choosing a major. So here at UMass, on the Common App with those supplemental questions that I mentioned, we do have a section in there where you can put in your first and second choice major. So it will be, sort of required that you have to put down your first and second choice major. So here at UMass, we have, like I said, over 100 majors within our schools and colleges. So these are the schools and colleges here, and then we have all of the majors that fall within these. So just keep that in mind when you're applying. You won't see these schools and colleges necessarily on the Common App. You'll see the actual major that you're applying into. And some majors are more competitive than others. So our competitive majors are the College of Engineering, the College of Nursing, our Eisenberg School of Management, and then the College of Information and Computer Science. So those are all competitive, which basically means we have extra requirements, just certain things we're looking for. The other piece that I want to mention is that here at UMass, we actually no longer have undeclared as a major. So we have what's called exploratory tracks. So exploratory tracks are basically a way for us to help guide you and help you figure out what you want to do with your major. We found, and I personally strongly believe in this, very much so, that most high school students don't know what they want to do with their lives. To be honest with you, most of us adults don't know what we want to do with our lives. So if you're one of those students that doesn't know, you're deciding between 200 different things, that is okay. We'll help you figure that out. And that's what those exploratory tracks are for. So if you're looking for undeclared, you'll see exploratory track on the Common App. And each one of the exploratory tracks goes with our schools and colleges. So for example, we have the exploratory track for the College of Humanities and Fine Arts, the exploratory track for the School of Public Health and Health Sciences, and so on. So that's what you want to select on your Common application if you're an undeclared student, okay? And it's also really easy to switch your major and move in and out of these exploratory tracks. I always use the example of biology. We have a lot of students that come in with bio. It's a very popular major. But a lot of students will change from bio to something else because there's other majors out there that are like bio but aren't like biology. Maybe you'll take a public health class and you're like, oh my gosh, public health is what I love doing, not just bio. Maybe you have some bio influences in that, but public health is really your passion. So it's really easy to move in and out of those majors and to change your major and to choose between the different schools and colleges. So don't get too hung up on these schools and colleges. Like I said, this is just a way for us to kind of organize our majors. What you're going to actually see on the Common Application is the list of majors that we have. So like I said, those 100 programs or so. Before I bring one of the students back, there is one program I do want to mention that's just a little bit special. And it's called BDIC, which stands for Bachelor's Degree with an Individual Concentration, which is basically a huge name for build your own major. So that's another option for you on top of the 100 plus programs that we have, is you can create your own. And that's really great for students that, maybe what you want to do career-wise, but you don't know, maybe there's not like a formal major to help get you there. Or it's really great for students that want to combine, 5, 6 different majors into one major. It's really great for students like that. And that's actually not something you can select on the Common Application. So if you already know you're interested in doing BDIC, you can't select it on the Common App. It's not something you can declare until you're actually here at UMass. There's a seminar you have to take where they help guide you and pick your classes, and it's kind of like it's a whole semester-long seminar. So if you're looking for that on the Common App, you won't find it, but don't worry, it's something you can declare here. But I do like to mention it because it is a little bit different. It's kind of one of those little unique programs that we have here at UMass. So just keep that in mind as well. Bachelor's Degree with an Individual Concentration is, like I said, about basically a build your own major program. All right, so I'm actually going to bring back Laura. She actually did go through the major change process, so she's going to talk a little bit about how she did that and how that was for her. Hers was a little different because she applied from economics into marketing, so it's in the Eisenberg School of Management, so it was a little bit more competitive, but she's going to go over that process a little bit with you and her experience with that. So go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, so when I applied to UMass, I always knew I wanted to do marketing. I was very interested in business, and so I put marketing first and then economics as the second choice, as Rachel said before, when you apply on the Common App. And I got in as an economics major, but I always heard that you could transfer into the business school. So it is a little more competitive. It's not as simple as you transferring from a bio to a public health. With those, you usually just go to your advisor, fill out a form and have it signed by the dean of the other school or the advisor, and it's really easy. But for Eisenberg, I did have to do a few things before I could apply. So I had to take 3 prerequisite courses to get into Eisenberg. So I had to take Intro to Macroeconomics, Intro to Microeconomics, Intro to Calculus, and kind of these to kind of see, they kind of want to see that how you do in those classes. They're kind of those are pre-business classes. So that's kind of something I had to take. I also had to apply my second semester freshman year. And the application was just pretty much my GPA, the GPA from those courses. And I got to maybe write a quick little essay and submit my resume on there too, to kind of just see. And they told me, I applied in April, and then they told me in late June, mid-July, and I found out. So it's kind of a little more complicated to apply, but it's definitely worth it. If you're definitely something interested, I definitely say go for it. And I'm kind of glad I was with economics, and then I transferred to marketing, but economics is still a really good major.
Yes, thank you. And Laura, I'm really glad you brought up too that you applied into it on your application, and then you were admitted to econ, and then you transferred in. So it is doable. And I just looked up the questions really briefly, and it looks like somebody did ask that. So hopefully we answered a little bit. So it kind of depends on the major. What Laura was talking about, with the competitive majors of the Eisenberg, the business program, computer science and engineering, the process is what Laura just described. So it's a little bit different. You have to take certain classes, you have to get certain grades in certain classes, and you usually have to do some sort of application, resume, essay, depending on what school it is. So, we don't like to say that that's, harder necessarily or easier, but it's just a little bit different. I do want to say, I did not mention this, but nursing is the one major you cannot transfer into. It's the only program that's like that. All the rest you're able to transfer into except for nursing. So nursing is the one major you do have to apply into right away as a high school student. So it's the only one that's a little bit different. So, okay. So
Rachel,
yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to jump in really quickly because I thought it would be also maybe a good time to jump into that question of what are the extra requirements for a business major to apply in. Because that could, maybe you could also mention the other selective majors, just a few little things we look for extra.
Yeah, on the for high school students. Yes. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So for the engineering school, computer science, and Eisenberg, for all three of those programs, we're actually looking at what am I trying to say? We're looking for very similar things in the applications, in the applicant, which is basically your math courses. So we are looking at usually a B or better in all of your math courses. And then we also require specifically pre-calculus for all three of those programs. And then we're also looking at the math section of your SAT or ACT if you're choosing to submit that. Obviously, that will look a little bit different this year in terms of competitive programs, but we're still test optional for even for competitive programs. So that's not a requirement. But if you do choose to submit the SAT, your math score will be considered for that as well. And then we're also, for engineering, we also look for physics and chemistry in your high school curriculum. So basically, I always tell students, we really rely heavily on those math grades and that math curriculum. So, usually, like I said, getting a B or better. Computer science is slightly more competitive than engineering and the Eisenberg School of Management. So, those acceptance rates and, kind of what we're looking for is a little bit higher. But it's still a holistic review. So, I don't want to say necessarily exact scores or exact GPAs because we do still look at this process holistically. But it is much heavier in the math requirements and the math section of your SAT and ACT. So we're looking for things like that. So hopefully, Carolyn, did that answer?
Yes, thank you.
Yes. And actually, that's a good transition, actually, because the next piece, we can move right actually into the Q&A. So like I said, I can see there are some live questions. I'm going to be totally honest. Carolyn and I haven't done this Q&A live Zoom piece like format before. Usually when we do our own sessions, we have it like more behind the scenes. So I think we were both like thrown off there for a second. So I'm sorry if we were confusing in the beginning, but hopefully now Carolyn and I, we're laughing at each other. Hopefully now we can go through and answer some of your live questions. So go for it, Carolyn, if you have one.
Yeah, I'm so sad to say because our Zoom, I can't find my emojis in this Zoom. Just, but I love these questions, and I think, yeah, can everyone see all the questions? I don't know, or just us? I don't know, but they're really good ones. So we're gonna hit them all. And so actually, I think that the first, well, oh my gosh, where do we even begin, Rachel? So the first one, let's talk about this because I wanted to send you a link and I promise I will, but someone asked about the International Relations Certificate Program we have, which is awesome. And it's an example of one of the 5 college collaborative programs that Rachel was mentioning that we are just so lucky to have such amazing collaboration with. And it's actually within, is it the poli-sci department? I think technically, but you can do the International Relations Certificate with any major. It's kind of like a minor's worth of work, I like to say, but it looks amazing on your resume, and I will totally send the link out for the website too, just in the general chat. And actually, while I do that, I don't know if Rachel or one of the students who knows so well want to talk about what's our average class size, kind of including those intro classes, which are a little bit bigger than the upper level classes.
Yeah, so I'll say, so the average class size is about 35 students, but I'm going to just shoot it right back to the students, and they can kind of talk more about their experience with that, rather than just kind of giving it a number to you. So go ahead, Neve, you can answer first.
Yeah, definitely. So like Rachel said, it is an average around like 35, 36 students, which is surprising because we are such a big university. That doesn't mean that you won't have larger classes. So my first psychology class I ever took, an intro to psychology, you can expect that to be a little bit larger. Honestly, it had about 400 students in it. We were all meeting in a lecture hall and discussing psychology and learning psychology, but we have really awesome ways of making those big classes that are maybe 100 plus feel smaller. We have these things called discussion sections that are capped at 25 students. So you're going over the material more in depth in a more intimate space with less students. It's open to more discussion and things like that. So you're getting that mix of large classes, and then, towards your major when you're in more specified classes to your major. So for example, my communication disorders major, when I'm in phonology, it's only about 20 or 25 of us. It's more specific and more intimate settings for class size. As like complete your general education requirements and move up towards your major, the classes get smaller and smaller.
Thank you. Laura, do you want to add to that?
I think Neve said it all, so she did it really well. So I don't really have much to add.
Awesome. Perfect. All right, Carolyn.
Awesome. And yeah, and we are seeing this other, well, tons of great questions. So we'll just jump right in. So like people are looking for some percentages of kind of like what our community is made up of and the percent of in-state versus out of state and international and students of color. And so actually about a third of our students, about almost 30%, so thousands of students on our campus identify as a student of color, about 10% are international. And about, I'm thinking, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, but last I was remembering it's like 75% in-state, about 25% out of state. Including international. So yeah, at a school as big as we are, that's still thousands of amazing state students. So that is a really, really fun and amazing diverse community at UMass. And tracking demonstrated interest is a really popular question. And actually, you might like the answer. So if anything, it can help you a little bit, but we barely use it. If you want to be counted for today and kind of have that interest demonstrated, just fill out that connect form that I sent over email like 2 days ago. But other than that, I mean, don't worry too much about it with UMass. We don't use it to as high an extent as many other colleges out there. But we try to track it, but we don't really use it, if that makes sense, at least at this point in time. And actually another great question is, what courses are taken at various colleges in the consortium? And I don't know if anyone wants to speak, like all of us are either past students or current students. So if anyone wants to speak to like a course that they took or their friends took, but there's thousands of options.
Yeah, I'll answer first, and then I don't know if either of you, Neve or Laura, have an example. So, well, when I was a student here, I took a dance class at Smith College. So I like to use that example too. First of all, I'm not a dancer at all. I never took a dance class in my life until college. So I use that example because you can take classes that are either major classes or general ed classes or just for fun classes. So dance for me was obviously just for fun. But you can take any classes. You can also take classes at the other 5 schools, at the other 4 schools, even if we have that course here at UMass. So obviously we have a whole dance program here. So there's tons of dance classes at UMass, which I took as well. But it doesn't have to be, something we don't have or that's only an option or an only offered at Smith College. You can take whatever class you want at those other 4 schools. So it's really cool because you can either complete some of your requirements through that, or you can just kind of get your credits, elective credits. So it's really up to the student on what they want to take. The only other thing I want to add before I turn it back to the students is that because we're the largest school in the consortium, a lot of their students come to us to take the courses. So I'd say definitely we're used more in the consortium than the other 4 schools. Just because we have the most classes offered out of the 5. So I don't know if Laura or Neve, if you have any experience there, or did you take classes or know of someone? Another example maybe?
Yeah, so I actually had a friend take sign language at Hampshire College because we weren't offering it at the time. Now we actually do offer sign language, which is amazing. I'm enrolled in it currently, but we didn't have it last semester. So he was really interested in it, and he signed up for it at Hampshire College and would just hop on the bus and get there totally for free twice a week and take that course at Hampshire College. So it's definitely common, and it's definitely something to take advantage of if it's something that's really interesting to you.
Thank you. That's a good example. All right, Carolyn.
Nice. Okay. And staying with, I think, the student perspective, there's a great question about wanting to know about residence life, dorms. Does anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll have both of you speak to that. So Laura, why don't you go first, and then Neve, you can jump in.
Okay, so our res stop is usually very long, so I'll talk about kind of our residential housing area, and then I guess Neve could talk about like who you live with, kind of like that. Do you want, maybe we'll go like that. So we have about 5 residential areas that freshmen can live in. So that's Northeast, Southwest, Central, Orchard Hill, and the Honors College. So I'll start with Northeast. So Northeast is one of our oldest residential areas on campus. This has a lot of STEM majors because it's really close to a lot of their classes. But this doesn't mean you have to live in Northeast if you're a science or STEM major. It's just really convenient for them. And then kind of up the hill, we do have Orchard Hill. So Orchard Hill is our smallest residential area. It's on a pretty big hill. So I like to say that the students that live there have the best cafes on campus. But again, you don't even have to walk up that hill if you're really tired or it's raining. We have bus systems that go up there all the time. And this also has a great view of campus and just a really nice quiet part of campus too. Then kind of right next to it, it's Central. I actually lived Central my freshman year and I absolutely loved it. It's kind of a bunch of buildings, bunch of dorms on a hill. So kind of also a huge hill, but I lived in Gorman, which was next to it. So I didn't have to walk up a huge hill. And one thing about Central that I'll say is that you'll see a lot of people outside all the time. So when it's warm out, people are throwing frisbees, just like sitting out on the grass, just talking. And in the wintertime, when we had our one snow day, we actually had a lot of students sleigh riding. So I went on our one snow day. I took a plastic bin container. Me and my roommate and my friends went out onto the hill and we went down in our plastic bins sleigh riding, and people were building snowman. Someone had skis and was doing jumps off this and doing flips and jumps off this big man-made thing. And my roommate actually broke her lid for her plastic container. But that's just one of my favorite memories actually from UMass, was that one little snow day we had. So I would say Central does hold a special place in my heart. Then we move on to Southwest, which is our most populated area. So we have about 5,000 students that live there. It is kind of a hustle and bustle feel like the city. It's actually our second most densely populated area in the Northeast. So it's right under New York City, which is kind of crazy. But if you like the urban feel, then definitely go to Southwest and kind of look into that. And then we have our Commonwealth Honors College dorms. So those are our newest dorms, and they're also air conditioned. But we're also in Massachusetts. It doesn't really get that hot in the summer, and we do have heating in the winter. So that's just a fun little perk for the Honors College. But that's really nice. So if you're looking to be in the Honors College and want to live there, that's something to definitely look into. So those are kind of our dorms and stuff. So if Neve wants to go into who you're going to live with and stuff like that.
Neve, if
Yeah,
you could
definitely.
if you could also talk about the RAP program too, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple ways you can go about choosing a roommate. One way is, of course, random. It's called random, but I do want to stress that it's not like completely random. You are filling out a little survey about things that you're interested in. Do you like to study with music on? What time do you go to bed? How do you feel about sharing your belongings? Things like that. And then if you choose to go random, you're matched with someone who put those same answers in their survey that everyone has to fill out. So that's one way you could go about obtaining a roommate. You can also mutually request someone. So whether that's someone you know from home, from your hometown, from school, or if you meet someone through the Facebook group, every class has a Facebook group on Facebook in which you can post a little bit about yourself, where you are interested in living, what you're majoring in, things like that. And that's a really awesome way to meet people. And that's how a lot of people have met their roommates. My sister is a freshman right now, and that's how she met her roommate. Obviously, they aren't living together right now, but she made a really great friendship, and they will, live together in the future. So something else we have is called a RAP. These are in our residential areas. It stands for Residential Academic Program. That's essentially a class that you are taking with everyone else on your floor. So it can be major-based or it can be interest-based. So we have a nursing RAP for all nursing majors, and you can choose that when you're filling out your dorm preferences and things like that, and you will be taking a nursing class with everyone on your floor. So it's a really great way to immediately integrate yourself with everyone else who you're living with. It's a great way to knock on someone's door and say, hey, do you want to get food before class things like that. It's a really awesome thing that a lot of freshmen take advantage of because it, you know, it lets you meet people a lot easier, and also, you know, you're all interested in the same class, so you already have that common ground to go off of.
Awesome. Thank you both. Like Laura said, that's a big topic too. So hopefully we kind of did a general overview there, but there's a lot more information on our website too. And I wanted to say the housing website, if you just Google like UMass housing or UMass residential life, they have 360-degree room tours of all the different living areas. So even though you're not able to visit campus in person right now, they do have those virtual tours, which are actually pretty helpful. So you should check those out too. Right, Carolyn?
Awesome, great answers. I was thinking it'd be a great time to talk a bit about study abroad because there are some good questions about that in the chat. And, you know, as we know in this moment, our study abroad programs are on hold until the pandemic is all kind of, things open up again after the pandemic. But in general, you know, all of us, I think, have had really good experiences with study abroad and know people who have too. And we have so many opportunities. So who wants to speak to that?
Do either of you have like a good example of a friend, or because I don't think either of you studied abroad, is that correct?
Oh, not yet. Right.
Yeah, not yet.
I
Yeah.
was planning on it in my junior year, so hopefully it happens.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I have a bunch of friends who have actually studied abroad. So we do have a couple of levels of study abroad. So, you know, we mentioned that by the College Consortium, that's our most basic form of studying elsewhere, but we also have domestic exchange programs. So that's, you know, a partnership with universities all over the country. So if you know you want to, you know, get a different experience for whether that's a semester or a year or through like a winter or summer break, spring break, that's totally possible. So we do have partnerships with universities all over the country. I had a friend go to Hawaii in the spring last year, and so she was going to class and then she was going scuba diving, and that was really, really awesome and exciting to see. Our most popular state to study abroad in is actually Montana, which is surprising to a lot of people. They would think maybe Florida or California, but we have a great agricultural program in Montana. So a lot of our students who are, you know, in that school of agriculture choose to go to Montana. And then of course we have our international study abroad with partnership with 7 continents. So if you want to go to Antarctica and hang out with penguins, you absolutely can do that, and is something that students do every year. I've had friends go to Spain, Ireland, London. They love it. They can't stop talking about it. And I love hearing about it because it really is something that is so incredible. This is done through our International Programs Office, which is right on campus, and they are there to help you through every step of the way. You know, if you want to live with a host family, if you want to live on campus at the university that you're studying abroad with, they really are there to guide you through everything and to make the transition as smooth as possible. So study abroad is really, you know, a lot of people choose to do it, but a lot of people love UMass too much. Myself is one of them. I couldn't bear to spend a semester away. So it's definitely there for you to take advantage of.
Awesome. Actually, and I forgot if someone already talked about Greek life, but someone's wondering if we have Greek life, which we do. Does anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I'm actually not part of Greek life, but I could tell you a few things about it. So about 8% of UMass students are in Greek life. So we like to say that they're small but mighty, but there are also a bunch of different things you can do with Greek life. So you can do probably like, you could do like community service Greek life, major Greek life. There's really a lot of different options that you have for Greek life. So if that's something you're really interested in, definitely look into it. But it's not something that you need to feel like you need to be a part of, or that you won't be able to have a great time at UMass, because there's so many other things that you can be a part of here to really make your experience amazing. But it's always there if that's something you're interested in.
Nice.
Thank you. Go ahead, Carolyn.
And actually there's a question like on another chat that of whether it's like, can people change majors within the business school easily? And that is a little bit relative, I guess, the word easy, but it is definitely possible. And Laura, I know you're relatively new to the business school, but my understanding is that if you're in the business school in one of the majors, you've met the prereqs, you can apply into the other majors within the business school, and you can switch over with your advisor's help.
No,
But
yeah. So with that, I do know that. So if you're there's two different programs in the Eisenberg. You have the BBA and the BS. So the BBA is what I'm in. That's marketing, accounting, finance, management, OIM. Those are like those were a higher GPA to get into. So you had to have pretty high GPA, while the BS programs, sports management and HTM, so hospitality, tourism management, those were a little bit of lower GPA, so they're separate. So in the BBA program, you could easily just switch majors kind of from marketing. I could go to accounting, probably just as simple as the form. But if you were in the BS, you would have to kind of go through a little similar application process to get into a management or to kind of switch into that. So the BBA is a little more competitive, but it's still all those things are all Eisenberg. So you still have the Eisenberg Business School, but it is like to get into the BBA from a BS does have a little application process, but it's not as intense as trying to get in from the outside.
yeah, great. And actually, this is one of my favorite questions. What do students do on the weekend?
I'll have you both answer that one. So Neve, you want to start there?
Yeah, definitely. So one of many great advantages of going to a large school is that you never run out of things to do. So there really are just like endless opportunities of things to get involved in on the weekend. So every week, actually on Thursday, we get an email from this website, Campus Pulse, and they give us a clear layout of everything that's going on. So whether that's a sporting event, or if a club is throwing an event, or if some concert is coming to the university, that's all laid out for you nicely, and there's always numerous things to do in that email, so you definitely have options. We are located, like we mentioned, in such a great area, so if you want to go catch a movie, we have a movie theater right at our fingertips. We have mountains that you can ski and snowboard at. I know a lot of my friends go to Vermont for a long weekend, or even to Quebec in Canada if they want to go ski and snowboard, things like that. I love, going into Northampton. They have a couple of concert venues there. I've actually gone into Boston for long weekends as well to see concerts, to visit friends who, are at universities in Boston. So there really are just so much to do. You'll never run out of things to do.
Yeah, going off of what Neve said, they do send out the email every Thursday, so you will always have a list to do of stuff that's going on campus and off campus. But one of my favorite things to do is when around winter time, when hockey season starts, you will always see me at a game. I will be in the student section cheering. I think the hockey games are one of my favorite things to do on campus. Has such like great school spirit, and a lot of alumni come. I think my favorite thing is seeing like little kids wearing their UMass merch, like starting them young, coming to UMass. And I had my parents come visit for Parents Weekend, and we saw a game together. They loved it. I just think those games are really fun, and all sports events too are really great. We really do have a lot of UMass pride and stuff, but also on the weekends going into town is something really great to do as well.
Thank you both. And I'm going to add on to what Neve said. So a lot of students will ask us if we have like certain clubs or certain organizations. So Neve mentioned Campus Pulse. So that's a website that you all can, just Google UMass Campus Pulse. And that's kind of like the database that has all of the clubs and organizations, all of the student-run organizations. So like sports and everything would be separate from that, but that you can find all the fraternities there, you can find all the clubs, you can find pretty much everything. So if you're looking for something specific, that's a really great place to search to start. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. All right, Carolyn, what do we got next?
Oh, great. Actually, and this is another one of my favorite questions, and it was asked first, so sorry we waited so long to get to it, but I know a lot of people want to know, like, what are the undergraduate research opportunities like? And sort of piggybacking off of that, what is the work-life balance like? So that's a great question for the students too.
Yeah, definitely. And before I throw it back to the students, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, which reminded me that we are a tier 1 research institution. So just kind of what that means, it's just a fancy way to say that we have a lot of funding, like a lot of money that comes in that is dedicated to undergraduate research. So research is a very big part of our campus. So a lot of students take part in research, and it's very accessible for all students and all majors. So you don't have to be like a science major, a bio major, or anything like that. I think a lot of people assume that. All majors across the board can do research, and it's very popular and, like I said, very accessible at UMass. So I don't actually know if Neve or Laura, do you have an example, or do either one of you want to volunteer there to chime in?
I haven't actually done any research yet. That's something that I definitely want to look into, and UMass definitely makes it very easy and accessible for you to look into. So I don't know if you know our famous library. It's a huge 28-story building, but that has on the 10th floor, it has the student, I think it's ours. It's called ours. I forgot what exactly it stands for, but it's basically where you go if you want to do research. And they have a bunch of advisors that'll help you choose. Like Rachel said, you do not need to be a STEM major to do research. I know a bunch of people who are a poli-sci major, marketing major. I know really any major can do research. And what's also really cool is that a lot of our professors are doing research as they're teaching. So they're always kind of keeping up with what's going on and also teaching you stuff. So something that I thought was really cool was my macro professor. He would be like teaching a topic, and he'd be like, this is what I've researched actually on minimum wage. And he's done his own thing, and he's been like criticized by the Forbes magazine, but I think it's just really like a research that he does at UMass is like taken seriously all around the country, and it's something that students were a part of, that he had students help and get involved with too. So it's like, definitely ask your professors. If you really love a professor and you know they're doing research, ask them. They usually are doing research, and they definitely want students to help. So even as a freshman, don't be afraid to ask, can I help you with anything? Are you doing any research? Because mostly every professor is doing research, and they'd love some help. So so I definitely recommend doing that if you really want to get started early with research.
Awesome. Neve, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Laura did such an awesome job mentioning our, Office of Undergraduate Research in the library. That's that's where a lot of students go to get involved, if they, can't find a professor who they can get on their team. But I do want to answer, I guess, the work-life balance that was asked, because I am a tour guide, so I am working on campus, but there are so many job opportunities on campus that, can be really, really flexible. So for example, for the tour guides, this is just one example. I've had a friend who was a tour guide, and his spring semester was looking really heavy. He had a lot of, courses that he had to take that needed a lot of attention. And so he spoke with our boss and was like, I think I'm going to need to take the semester off. Is that something that can happen? And my boss was totally understanding and so supportive of that decision. So, your mental health and your, academics, they definitely come first, and every employer is super understanding and supportive of that, decision that you would make. But there are super flexible schedules and jobs that are on campus, so you can work in the dining hall. They have late night dining in Berkshire and Worcester dining. So, if you're busy during the day, but from 10 to midnight, you're available, you can work there. You can work in the library as a tutor. You can work all around campus at one of the, coffee shops that we have. Definitely, I found it really, it adds structure to my schedule. It holds me accountable for getting my work done. So it is something that, helped me as a student become, better at, getting things done on time instead of procrastinating.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes. And thank you for answering that other question. I almost forgot about that one. So, all right, Carolyn, what do we got next?
Nice. Well, actually, there was I know we're running short on time. Oh my gosh. So I'll try to be quick with this one, but it's a really good question about cost of attendance, merit money, scholarships, financial aid. So because I think most of us together here right now are from out of Massachusetts, and the costs are a little different for out of Massachusetts and in Massachusetts, because if you're in Massachusetts, you get like a taxpayer kind of subsidy on the UMass cost of attendance. But yeah, cost of attendance is about, let me try to remember this right. It's about almost $50,000 per year if you're going to put into that the tuition, the living on campus, and the eating, the amazing food. And so you're going to find that to be pretty comparable to a lot of other places that you're probably looking at that might be like state school universities like us. And actually, to the good questions about merit money, because of that cost that is more than for our in-state students, we give most of our merit money to our out-of-state students. So when you're asking like who gets that money and how many people get it, actually most of our out-of-state students, like 85%, are going to be offered some merit money. So hopefully everyone will be, you know, offered something to make that come down a little bit. And anyone can and should apply for need-based aid through the FAFSA. If you're in the US, the federal application for the free application for federal student aid. And that can open you up to be able to get grants and loans as well. And I'm trying to think of, there are a few other scholarships that you could apply for. But honestly, the merit money is going to be given out basically, you know, usually based kind of on like some of your numbers, like how good grades you got. It's not going to be based on every aspect of what you've done. So you don't need to apply for that merit money that we're talking about. You just, anyone who applies gets considered for it. So that's cool. And you can definitely go to our financial aid website too, because they try to walk you through all of that. And they're a separate office from us, but we work together with them because we read your applications without looking at any money stuff, like not anyone's ability to pay or family monetary situations. So, you know, we read need blind, as you probably have heard that term before. So that's why our financial aid office is separate, but they are really helpful. So yeah, so great questions there. And then Rachel, do you want to, our other favorite question, do you want to ask that of the students?
Yeah, so my favorite question to end on for the students, and I have one more slide just for contact info, but my favorite question to end on, it would have been a canned question, even if no one asked it, but someone did, so thank you, Hannah. So each of the students, if you could both answer why did you choose UMass? What made you choose UMass? So Neve, go ahead, go first, and then Laura.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So I'm actually a transfer student. So I was at a small university my freshman year, and I just discovered that a small university was not for me. So I was looking into bigger universities that I could tour and, you know, go visit, and UMass was one that kept coming up. And we finally, my mom and my sister and I, we finally got in the car and we drove up to Amherst, and there was no going back from as soon as I stepped on the campus. Just the resources that UMass has is seriously unmatched to any other university that I could possibly think of. My tour guides had a big role in my decision. They were just so kind and so enthusiastic about the university. And I was, you know, as I was walking through campus, I was like taking a look at the students, and everyone just seemed so enthusiastic and passionate about UMass. And after spending a year there, that's absolutely true. We are all so proud to be a part of UMass and so enthusiastic about our school and so happy to be where we are. So that is why I chose UMass. I wish I was here my freshman year, but there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
Awesome, thank you. Go ahead, Laura.
So I actually did not know that UMass existed basically my whole like college touring process in high school. And then my grandma told me about this school in Western Mass, and I just was like, oh, I'll apply. Why not? And I got in, but I didn't really think about it. I was looking at schools like kind of in New Jersey and a little bit kind of south. And then March came around, and we kind of were like, oh, we should tour UMass. And I toured on this cold Wednesday, super windy, was late to the tour because we're from New Jersey and we didn't make enough time for it. But the second I stepped onto campus, I was like blown away because I just loved the whole campus feel, the whole vibes. I know it sounds cheesy, but I'm super big on vibes with campus, and I immediately loved it. I wasn't even like, we didn't even learn about UMass, but I was like, Mom, I'm coming here. We're putting down the deposit tonight. And then on tour, I also loved my tour guide too. I actually got to meet him when I came and became a tour guide. So that was really fun seeing him again. And I kind of just walked through campus, and I could just picture myself spending my next 4 years here and kind of seeing this as my second home. And again, with all the resources that UMass had, it had everything I wanted. It was big. I loved the feeling. I loved kind of the urban feel. I loved the area. The sports were the D1 sports, and just the academics and all the resources with this big school that they had. Because the alumni really do love UMass. They've put so much money back into the school, and you could really tell sitting on that campus and everything they had to offer. So my big thing piece of advice that I would say is that go for your gut, and also feel like the vibes of the school. I know with Corona, it's kind of hard to visit them, but I hope you visit them at some point, because hopefully next year, because like you really do get the feeling of the school, and even if it's not UMass, if you step onto UMass and you realize it's not the vibe, then that's okay. But I hope wherever you go, you really fall in love with that school when you step onto it, because that's where you're going to be spending the next 4 years, and they're really amazing 4 years of your life. And I'm so glad I chose UMass.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. I'm going to go here to the next slide just so we can end on this contact info. I know we're right at the time here, or a minute over. So just really briefly, this is all of our contact info. So here we have our social media pages. We have the general mail admissions. I'm going to actually type my email right in the chat though. Hopefully this goes through. And that's my email address. You can, even if you're not in New Jersey, you can email me. That's totally fine. We also have an email address for our international applicants, because that's a bit of a different process, not too different, but a little bit different. And then if you have questions specifically for students, either the 2 students we have here today or other students. Oh, my email address is up there. When did I change that? Didn't know that. Well, there's my email on the slide. We have a couple different PowerPoints, so clearly this is one I forgot that I added that. And then my email is up there too. And then our website is up there as well for those other virtual sessions that I mentioned at the beginning. So if you want to get more information on our campus, you can head to that website and get more information there. I do just want to, we're going to probably hand it back to Jenna here in a second, but I do just want to mention, kind of reiterate what both Laura and Eve said, which is that I know this is a really different time for us. And I think the key piece here for everyone, like my best piece of advice for everyone, is to communicate with us. So our email addresses and our websites and everything are up there for a reason. If there's anything that goes wrong, or you think something, there's a snag, please let us know. This is going to be a really flexible year. And just know that we're on your side. We're not against you. I know it feels like that sometimes, but I promise that we're not. So please reach out. Let us know if you have questions. We're here for you. Because especially this year is going to be different for all of us, actually. So with that, I will hand it over to Jenna.
Thank
She'll probably close us out here.
I have no other words. This is amazing. I love the student perspective. It always really helps students that are, haven't been to campus understand it a bit more. And I think that you all did an excellent job. So I hope that, everything gets a little bit more normal in the next few months, and definitely communicate, because they are such great communicators. I know when we set this up, everyone was super responsive. So I appreciate that. And good luck to everyone applying. Good luck to you both as students. New Jersey's not a bad place to be, Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Carolyn. And have a good night, everybody. Thank you.